Story Crafters podcast. We're here and joined tonight by Nicole, Game Master Mom, Jared, World's Okayest Crafter, and the one, the only, the unfortunate but beloved Ink GM Charlie, hosting for tonight. Fortunately, as you may know, our normal host, who leads our wonderful band of heroes here, Jeff, is not with us tonight. Facing a couple levels of exhaustion, he had to roll initiative with disadvantage, and therefore he's going to come in on the next session. So, but he will be missed. We love him. We wish him well, and we'll see him soon. But in the meantime, you'll have to settle for the three of us. And we love it.
Sorry about your luck.
Right? We miss Jeff, but Charlie's back.
Hey,
yeah.
Yes.
I am back sometimes.
I guess you were back for our last episode too, but I feel like that one was different because Casey was here, and Casey just is the whole show.
It's real. That was an awesome episode.
It really was. Absolutely loved it. She was such a great guest and so much fun to talk to.
For sure. It was both fun to record, and I still had a lot of fun re-listening to it again because I was like, there's so many things that you just kind of forget that you talked about, or so many answers that are given. That it was great. Loved having her on. We'll have you on again if you ever want to rejoin, Casey.
Absolutely. And speaking of, our wonderful band of heroes are brought to you by Firelight Fables Candle Company. Do you have a candle that you love? What if I told you that you could have a candle even better than anything you've ever imagined? Perhaps verdant jungles, leafy fern and fresh rain, or dwarven dungeons. Perhaps a forbidden forest or twisted caverns. Well, Firelight Fables has a candle for you and your players, and is ready to immerse you in not just an amazing D&D session, but a relaxing session and ambiance that only a wood wick and soy apricot or coconut apricot wax. Wow. Okay. So sorry, Casey. Coconut apricot wax candle that can be yours for a very modest price to support a wonderful women-owned small business. And I really hope Jeff barely edits this so that everybody can come to learn how much we appreciate Jeff and everything he does for us, and that this is not an easy job to do, and we miss him.
And you can use code StoryCrafters at firelightfables.com for 15% off.
Yes, and you should. Or take advantage of the other good deals they run, because they also run some really good deals, and candles are top notch, as we say always.
Yeah, can confirm. And also make great gifts for your DMs or your players or your loved ones, or honestly, even just the people that you tolerate. Maybe they'll be better people if they have better smelling candles.
I mean, honestly, kill them with kindness, and what a better way than a great candle.
There you go.
All right, let's get this moving. Let's roll initiative.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
I, being super prepared, have no physical dice, so I'm rolling digitally on the D&D Beyond app. So
hey, there you go.
Maybe this time I'll actually roll in double digits.
I'm also rolling with my dice fidget spinner that I got at Gary Con.
Heck yeah. Nicole, what did you do?
I got a 19.
Holy cow.
Ooh, okay.
I was feeling good with a 12, so.
Yeah, I mean, 12 is good for us.
Right, yeah, it's pretty solid. Mind bowling.
Yeah.
Mind bowling. I couldn't decide between blowing and boggling, so it's mind bowling.
No, we're just mind bowling.
Right.
That was a strike.
For those that are not
stroke, perhaps
listening, we all did our best miming of terrible bowling. I'd like you to know that the bearing on this fidget spinner from Gary Con is still spinning. I'll let you know what I roll momentarily.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, Charlie.
It's 19.
It's probably not going to be to 19. Yeah. And if you do, then we'll just make Jeff edit this to put you first. And, we'll put in some cheering noises and some fanfare and all that.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
There you go.
I mean, how long does this thing go for? Is it infinite?
It just ended on an 11.
Okay.
Hey, but This has to be history. I think this is the first time we've all rolled in double digits.
This definitely never happened.
I think it might have happened once before, but it's definitely statistically on the wrong side.
All right. If any of you listeners or watchers have found another time where we all rolled double digits on initiative, then tell us in the comments, because I am pretty convinced that it never happened.
I would love a spreadsheet. If there's like a super fan, I would love a spreadsheet that shows all of like what's our average roll and, you know, who rolled what, which episode. Please do that for me.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
all
Nicole,
right.
So Nicole,
please tell us
what you got going on.
Yeah, I guess that's me. Oh my gosh. I feel like what just happened with this 19? This is like, I might need to like quit after this episode. This might be my peak on Story Crafters, actually.
Yeah. I feel like we should always have the option of just taking 10 as the average. Just being like, I'm not going to roll. I peaked, so I'm just going to go at 10.
Yeah, that's probably a good
you
plan.
Just have to, I mean, you just got to, you know, take a multi-class and Rogue for a little bit. You can.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've actually played D&D since the last time we talked, which is kind of a bummer. I did get in my coloring books, which I think maybe I showed off last time. I can't remember, but yeah, coloring books are in, which is exciting. They're very pretty.
So beautiful.
I'm so excited for those.
So still in the wait for shipping for the actual physical copies of my book. This one over here that you can kind of see. And hopefully they'll be here in September, probably like mid-September. So I'm going to be shipping out like, I don't know, 100, 120 orders.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Which is
wild.
super exciting. I have this like vision in my mind that I'm sure I will get nowhere near close to this, but like the way that Casey packages the Firelight Fables candles and has all those like really cute, magical, like on theme, immersive things in there. I'm like, I want to do that. So I'm kind of on the hunt for some cute, like extra stuff I can put in my packages for my Kickstarter people. So we'll see.
I know, and she like wraps it with like tissue paper, and then like includes like you said, all the immersive stuff, the little extras, and then the stickers, and then the cards, and a letter, and then
the little scroll
on the outside. The little scroll.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is genuinely like the most exciting package to receive, because you know it's not only the we're just going to continue this. It's not only the beautiful, wonderful smelling candles inside, but it comes with so many little extra features that it is truly like Christmas morning.
It really is. It really is. And I definitely will not be on that level, but I want to do a little bit of magic in there, at least for my, you know, my original people that backed the book. So I'm excited for that coming up next month, September. What else have I been doing? 2 weeks ago, last recording was my daughter's first day of kindergarten. So I can happily report that we are all doing well. She is obsessed with kindergarten. She keeps asking me if we can like not have weekends because she wants to go to school every day, which is really cute.
Incredible. That is a huge achievement. Like successfully getting a kid into, and let alone into, but also enjoying school. Like, excellent. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's really all I've been up to. Survived the first 2 weeks of kindergarten very well. Everyone is thriving. I am getting used to waking up at 5:45 in the morning, and I'm actually like, you know, day like, I don't know, 8 or 9, I was like, I'm kind of liking this. I'm kind of digging it. I like being up before the sun. This is kind of nice. Like, I get it now what early morning people are talking about. Like, it's kind of a rush to get so much done before like 8 a.m.
There is something you truly feel like you can conquer the day. Yeah. But then for me, like 10:30 in the morning hits and it's like, oh God, why did I do that? Can I go back to sleep? So
That is very real. There's like a 10:30 one, and then there's another one at like 1:30, and both of those I'm like, I just need to take a nap, right? Like that's the only option.
Yeah. And again, I say it is 9:30 p.m. Eastern time where I live, and I'm drinking coffee. So
yeah.
I do not miss that. I am grateful that I don't have to wake up that early anymore. I used to have to do that on the regular when I worked at the courthouse. And it was, but I mean, what the nice thing was is we did leave at like, 4:00. So. Right.
It's like you just scoot everything up. But
yeah.
I have yet to really nail the okay, scoot up the bedtime thing too. So that's the next thing is like, okay, I'm getting up earlier. I really need to go to bed earlier.
Yeah, you got to keep that long rest from becoming a short rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure I've had a full long rest in like 3 weeks. So
I mean, that's parenthood and prepping for school, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, so that's me. Okay, 12, right? That's you, Jared?
Yeah, I think that brings it to me. So I also, well, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I've talked about this. I did get to play in a one-shot a couple weeks ago that I suppose I've not talked about. My brother ran it. It was set in the Underdark, which was pretty fun. I played a Gloomstalker Ranger. We were at level 9, so that was pretty awesome. It was the first time playing a Gloomstalker Ranger like on the tabletop, and would recommend. It was a lot of fun. I was a Shatterkai, so I was very much the go into the shadows and use the blessing of the Raven Queen to jump from one spot to the next and fire my bow and disappear again. It was very fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Beyond that, I paused my game. We're picking it back up at the beginning of October. It started out as mental health, and it still is kind of a mental health break, but also I just am working on some things. We've kind of hit, I don't know, a new phase in that story. So I think the break was well-timed and needed for me. But one of the things that I have been working on for my table, but will eventually be a thing that I'd like to release to the public in some capacity, is a Seafarer's Handbook. It is a rule set that I've written from the ground up for ship-to-ship combat. And I have found in my pirate campaign, The Abyssal Tide, when my players are sailing, especially if there's no encounters or anything, it feels very much just like downtime. And it feels like, hey, we're just kind of cruising along and not really doing anything. Yeah, my hand's on the wheel. Yeah, sure, I'll tug on a rope now and again. So my goal is with this supplement to make it feel much more intuitive and alive. It's very narrative and story driven still, so it's not rules heavy. But I'm pretty excited about it. So I have some work still to go, and then I'll do some play testing, and I'll probably send it to a few people, who are interested and have availability to, try it out. I'm pretty excited about it though. There's some things that I've kind of had light bulb moments and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be perfect. And I feel like it slots super well into 5e and it's not very clunky, which is Charlie's aggressively pointing at himself. I will absolutely. Once I have like a solid first draft going, I still have a few things to refine and work through, but I'm very excited about it, and I'll definitely be talking more about that in the future as I get more done on it. So outside of that, the other D&D adjacent thing that I have going on is next weekend, the first full weekend in September, I'm going to the Ohio Renaissance Fair, which I'm very excited for. It's one of the larger ones in the States, is my understanding. So super excited about that. Finally got like an outfit for myself, which is kind of cool too. I've never been able to justify dressing up for anything. So we're going with some friends. We're actually camping that weekend and then going to the Ren Fair. So that'll be a heck of a lot of fun. Very excited. So if you find yourself at the Ohio Ren Fair, I think it's September 6th, then I'll be the tall person who looks like me. So say hi if you see me. Beyond that, not much going on. I have not been living up to my name of okayest crafter because I've done literally no crafting The weather has kind of turned though, and it's actually quite comfortable out in my workspace here now. So hoping that will change now that I'm not just dripping sweat out here all the time. But yeah, that's been me though. Really, I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate still. So that is probably also why I've not been doing as much crafting. So whoops, but no regrets. So what's going on with you, Charlie?
Been very busy with work, so that's been taking a lot of my both my time and my mental bandwidth. However, I was on a work trip recently to Cleveland, and I did get to go to 2 really awesome TTRPG stores up there. First, shout out to Critical Hit Games, absolutely wonderful store that's up there. In fact, if you look it up on Google, you'll see one of the pictures of the interior. They've painted the entire part of the store that has the bathroom to look like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. It's amazing. That's awesome. It's so cool. But just a really cool local spot. Just really, really down to earth. Great place. Got some great minis from over there. In particular, one that I'm very excited to show off is this Dwarven Wizard.
Oh, heck yeah.
Let's see. Get it to... it's a little hard to get it close to it. But for those that are listening and not watching, this is an official D&D Wizards of the Coast mini, and it has like this flourish of arcane sigils made of like clear plastic that extends from the wand around the dwarf, and it just is so cool. I've not seen a mini like that from Wizards of the Coast before, so that was really cool. But yeah, great place. The other place that I got to go to was Warzone Matrix, and this place was literally, like a quarter of the mile from the car rental place at the airport in Cleveland, and I was like, I gotta stop there. I gotta stop. So went in, and the place is like, it's like a museum, or just a giant thrift store, all dedicated to TTRPG stuff. And there is stuff there for Warhammer and D&D and everything you could possibly think of, tabletop wise. For like, they have stuff that like you're looking at it and you're like, when was this made? And it's like the original, like I'm talking like from AD&D era, like cast.
Wild.
It's so cool. They have so many things, and like every freaking miniature you could imagine. And they had there was one wall that had like every single like adult and ancient dragon for sale, and I was like,
crazy.
Wow. It was so cool. It was overwhelming with choices, but it was really, really awesome. And I got to find some really cool minis over there as well. Some that I didn't grab were a collection that I have to paint. They're unpainted, but it is a collection of a limited release from Wizards of the Coast of different Warforged minis. And typically most Warforged minis that you find are going to be like fighters or more like paladins, usually with shown to be with a shield and a sword. But I found this box had a wizard Warforged, a monk Warforged, and I can't remember what the other one was, but I was like, these are so
That's
cool.
pretty sweet.
Really neat flavor that you just don't see a lot of times, which was really cool. But got this guy, this Dragonborn, and just so much detail. I've not seen a Wizards of the Coast mini with this much detail, and it is painted. And
I don't know that I've really ever seen painted ones. I think I actually have that exact same model, but I painted it myself, and I don't know that I've ever seen the pre-painted ones.
Yeah, you can find some of the pre-painted ones, but this is for those watching, this is a gnome wizard, and he's got a fireball, and like it's hard to kind of see again with my camera. I've got a crappy camera, but I mean this pre-painted mini actually has an ombre on the cape of the.
It looks really good.
The light blue with like stars on it, and I was like, this is insane. Yeah, you can find some Wizards of the Coast minis that are pre-painted. And
Sure.
I've noticed some stores, when they do have them, they usually have the very common ones that people are going to select, so it's usually your more humanoid races and more common classes. So you tend to see some of the repeats for the ones that are pre-painted, and some places actually will really charge highly for them, more than what they are commercially. But this place had them all, regular market price. So like each of those were like,
that's wild,
$7 or $8, and I was like,
which is like
so nice,
so reasonable. Because unpainted, you're gonna pay $5, and then you have all the materials and time into painting it. So yeah, if they're that high quality and already painted, like my gosh, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Other than that, the other big piece of D&D news is two things. One, very excited. So I'm got to get back into the rhythm with social media and Instagram and everything. But I'm very excited when I do get into that. Hopefully soon I'll be able to share. We have fan art.
Heck yeah!
My group, my D&D group that meets once a month, the one that I had to scale back to with work and everything. We have official fan art. We had one of the players' cousins was in town and wanted to see what D&D was about, and they asked her like, hey, because it's a paid group, and we meet privately.
Sure.
They're like, is it okay if they come? And I said, yeah, absolutely. As long as the other players are okay with it, I don't care. It's up to the players. And they all said, yeah, bring them on. And they came and sat with us, and they had such an amazing time just watching us play for like 4 hours. And they decided they wanted to do, and they do fantastic art. And so they wanted to do fan art of the players and some of my NPCs. And the art so far has been phenomenal. I'm so excited to share it.
So cool.
So, waiting on that. The other piece of news with that too is we did have a player that had to drop his scheduling. So we had an empty spot, which has now been filled by Jeff.
Heck yeah.
What?
He's going to be joining the group. I love that. I'm so excited. The players, the other players in the group are really excited. They've been chatting in the Discord, and I'm really excited to have him there. And definitely want to hear his unadulterated and feedback and criticism.
Unadulterated slander.
Yep. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think he's going to have a blast. He's going to have a character concept. We're going to have his session 0 next week. And
sure.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So
I'm so jealous that y'all get to play together. That's so cool.
Right?
I know. It's awesome.
It's so cool.
Geography, man.
I know.
Darn it. Darn it.
And speaking of geography, the other announcement that is not so much news for you guys because Jeff and I have shared it with you all, but for those listening or watching on YouTube, always an option. Jeff and I are going to be hosting a panel at BirdQuest this year, which is going to be in Williamsburg, October 12th and the 13th, I believe. And I will actually get that information momentarily.
Yeah, we will put it in the show notes. BirdQuest.
But yeah, Jeff and I, we're going to be hosting a 60-minute educational presentation, panel discussion, and Q&A for all those who wish to attend. And our panel is called "One Does Not Simply Homebrew an Entire World."
I love
it. Incredible.
What does that mean? Well, What do you mean you want to create your very own uniquely immersive setting and living narrative for an unforgettable TTRPG campaign? Well, come and chat with some of the hosts of the Storycrafters podcast in this exciting workshop on homebrewing everything from magical trinkets to whole entire planes of existence. So that's that's our panel title and our little description, and very excited to be doing that with him, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun at BirdQuest last year. Very excited that we get to go back. Very grateful that they are letting us run this panel, and it's gonna be a good time.
That's so exciting. That's pretty darn cool.
That's really cool. I was looking into it. I'm just curious. I mean, Charlie, since you've been before, like what's kind of like what's good at BirdQuest? Like, what's the size of it? How are the people that host it? Like, what's your impression of it compared to like other cons you've been to?
Yeah, so BirdQuest is very interesting, and I'm very excited to be involved with it now and to see where it goes. And the reason for that is it is a TTRPG convention, strictly TTRPGs and anything about that. So even if it's from simple board games, anything that creates that experience that brings people together around a table, playing some kind of rules mechanic, that's what this convention is meant for.
Nice.
What's even cool is it's actually sponsored by the city of Williamsburg. That's who backs it. And they hired a professional company, and the people that work over there are absolutely awesome. I think it's AVA something. I'm so sorry, guys.
They're good.
But yeah, I will put I'll give them a shout out in the show notes, i.e. give that information to Nicole, who will be great to put it together. So
it will magically appear for y'all.
It'll magically appear. But yeah, they do a fantastic job. They're super professional, and they do big scale events for colleges and universities and other
Cool.
cities and companies all throughout the year. And this is just one of them that they've picked up, and they run, and they do a great job with it. However, last year was the very first year that it had ever been done, BirdQuest.
Oh, wow.
And there was definitely, it was several hundred people that were coming out for the first year of this thing. It was really cool. They're expecting another turnout again, about 500 to 600 people.
Nice.
And that's going to be really cool. And the reason City of Williamsburg is doing this, and it's only going to get better, is because apparently they're in the process of building a massive convention center that they want to be like a East Coast convention center hub and destination place for big cons and conventions. So the impression that I've been given and what I've taken away from this is, because they've approached it very, very, Williamsburg has been on it, doing a great job with it. They're really pouring a lot into it, and it really seems like they want this to become just a really big celebration of TTRPGs, and one of the reoccurring cons that will be kicking off whenever this convention center opens up.
Heck yeah.
So it's going to get bigger, cool. And it's been pretty cool.
If anybody out there has if you're a creator or an artist or something that wants to be a vendor, I did a little dive into what that looks like for BirdQuest, and it's super affordable. I want to say it's maybe $70 for a booth for the whole weekend in their market, and submissions are open through the end of September. So
I saw a full
if you
weekend
can get
pass.
there, that's amazing.
A full weekend pass to attend, I think, is $40. I saw, so very, very reasonable.
Great value.
Yeah, and last year, so they had the vendor hall space, and it's Williamsburg, which is just if you've never been, it's just a really nice historical part of Virginia and because of that, they haven't done a lot of massive construction. So there's where we were. It was just this beautiful fall setting, and you just looked out the window and it was all these trees and everything, which is really cool. Because some conventions you go to and it's in just a concrete slab, and you're like, All right, are we in a doomsday bunker, or are we here, to play some games? I'm like, is everybody here on their own free will? It's a little concerning sometimes. We're not sure.
I'm not gonna lie.
Honestly,
I went down kind of like a rabbit hole because I was like, maybe I want to go. This would be so fun. And then I was like, okay, well, if I take off the whole week, then I can also go to like the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's not that far. So, I mean, I doubt I can get my crap together before October, but maybe next year, Berg Quest. Maybe.
You never know.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing up there. I mean, there's so many things to do, and it's just a really great area. I mean, my wife and I, we got married in Yorktown, which is right around the corner from Williamsburg, and there's just so many wonderful hotels and bed and breakfasts. And the place we were at last year for Berg Quest felt like a resort, and this year I believe we're in a new building, and so I'm very excited to see what they do with that. But if it was anything like last year, it was super roomy. At no point did I ever feel like it was crowded, which is so nice, because sometimes you go to some conventions and you feel so claustrophobic. Parking is a nightmare. And thankfully here there was quite a bit of parking, and for those that couldn't park up close, they had shuttles that were running to take people all throughout, but not just around the parking lot, which was really cool. So you could take the shuttle to go into downtown Williamsburg. And so I remember I was running games that day, and my wife was there, and we had some friends that were also there. And so they left, got on the shuttle, and went and got lunch in downtown Williamsburg when I was running one of the games. And, it was just really cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm really excited to go back. So it's the second year, so probably more vendors. They did have a live orchestra group that was doing fancy music and like Legend of Zelda music. It was really cool.
It's awesome.
And they had somebody else that came and set up like a whole room full of arcade games and video games and computers and stuff to play different things on, which was really cool. And then they had just a whole library of board games to pick from. And then, of course, there were live games. I was running some of them. You could do. And they had panels. I think they had panels last year that were running from, I think on Saturday, it was from 10 a.m. to midnight. They were running panels.
Holy cow.
And
that's wild. Sometimes
the panels, we're doing a panel discussion and a Q&A, but some of them were performances, fantasy themed comedy skits. There was a fantasy themed improv group. I can't remember the name of them, but Pushing Dragons, I believe is what it was called. Yeah. It was awesome. It was a really cool, really neat, down to earth little convention. And it's only going to be getting bigger, but it was nice.
That's been cool. Cool to be in on the ground floor then too, because you can kind of grow with it and, establish yourself as a mainstay.
Very grateful and hope to do so.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe next year all 4 of the story crafters can be there and record live.
Oh, how cool would that be? Oh man, that would be
That'd be awesome.
That would be dope. That would be so fun.
Yeah. Well, howdy y'all. Welcome to Wild and Wicked War Machines. We sell used, somewhat new, and broken down and dirty war machines. Anything you need to conquer your next civilization or city down here in the Astral Sea. Well, we've got just about everything that comes down here, including one of our more featured assets called the Necro Golem. Necro Golem is, in essence, the manifestation of its namesake, imperfect death. Not in the sense of its physical assembly, but rather the blasphemous and inhumane ways that it corrodes and decimates the very essence of life. It is sentient in its capability to receive instruction, so it'll do all your nasty bidding and destroy any city or enemy that comes across in your way. But it's not autonomous in nature or desire, so it'll do your bidding. Of course, if you pay the price with us. But everybody's got a couple spare souls to spare, right? So it is, in fact, a truly inspired construction and realization of an artificer's most sadistic nightmares. Utilizing a proprietary arcane engine inspired by infernal war machines, it uses the unrealized arcane potential of the souls of its victims to fuel itself. You hear that? Just one down payment, and then from then on, you never have to pay to fuel it up. it practically pays for itself. What better war machine could you possibly get? Well, this process is incredibly efficient and powerfully dynamic, allowing the Necrogolem to wield potent spells and physical strength beyond most mortals' comprehension. This fortuitous and lethal combination is the true legendary power behind the name drenched in rotting viscera and dried layers of blood from generations of adventurers that have been eroded from history by the Colossus of Chaos. And that's our Necrogolem. We have a bunch of other things depending on your budget for world domination, but whatever it may be, big or small, we got you covered. Come on down to Wicked and Wild War Machines today.
Back on track, by golly. Let's dive into the lore. We are going to be, because I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate, and things are just going to continue to be inspired from that. We are going to be talking about the Harpers.
Ooh, the Harpers.
The Harpers. All right. Few organizations in the Forgotten Realms are as storied or as shrouded in myth as the Harpers. At their heart, the Harpers are a decentralized network of spies, bards, rangers, mages that are all united by a single guiding principle: to safeguard the realms from tyranny and to preserve the delicate balance between nature and civilization. Founded in the year of the Dawn Rose, 324 DR, that is Dale Reckoning for you history nerds out there, by legendary figures like I practiced this name so many times and then I still botched it. Dathlu Mistwinter, Elminster, and the Bard Song of the Elves. The Harpers began as a small fellowship bound by ideals rather than by oaths of loyalty. Their creed has endured for centuries: stand against oppression, aid the helpless, and work subtly against forces that would dominate the realms. The Harpers are notorious for their secretive structure. Unlike guilds or knightly orders, they have no single leader or fixed headquarters. Instead, small cells and lone agents act independently, connected by word of mouth, music, and coded symbols. Their most famous meeting place has long been the city of Burdusk in the Western Heartlands, but Harper agents can be found across Faerun, from the taverns of Waterdeep to the wilds of the Dale Lands. Their anonymity makes them both resilient and mistrusted. Rulers often view the Harpers as meddlers, while common folk tend to see them as quiet guardians who appear in times of need. In terms of history, the Harpers have played a hand in countless key events. They oppose the rising power of the Zentil Keep and the schemes of the Red Wizards of Thay, clashing with these forces for centuries. They also suffered their own infernal fractures, most famously during the Time of Troubles, and later with the splinter group known as the Moonstars, formed under Kelben Blackstaff Aronson. Despite such setbacks, the Harpers' resilience lies in their decentralized nature. When one self falls, others endure. The organization embodies the idea of that ideals, once sown, cannot be easily rooted out. The Harpers have appeared in multiple official D&D adventures and media. They are a faction option in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus and feature prominently in Storm King's Thunder and Waterdeep Dragon Heist. The character Edgin, played by Chris Pine, is a former member of the Harpers in Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Excellent movie if you haven't watched it. If you're listening to this, probably you have. In the aforementioned Baldur's Gate 3, the Harpers play a pivotal role, scattered remnants standing against the cult of the absolute and still striving to protect the innocent, even in the darkest of times. Their presence across media highlights their enduring role as the realm's conscious, acting as the quiet counterbalance to unchecked power. Ultimately, the Harpers endure not because of wealth, might, or divine backing, but because of their unwavering belief in doing what is right, even if no one ever sings their praises for it. In a world full of liches, dragons, and godlike despots, the Harpers remind us that hope, song, and quiet resistance can be just as powerful. Whether you see them as meddling idealists or noble protectors, one thing remains certain. Their harp strings echo through the realms, a subtle music of freedom that never quite falls silent. Whew. I think I stumbled over more words than I wrote.
I love it.
Also, it's awesome. Yes, as you mentioned, the awesome movie Honor Among Thieves. Because I've only gotten to play a little bit of Baldur's Gate this year, so I'm not anywhere near it where they've been introduced, unfortunately. But I do know them from the movie, and I always thought, I was like, that's a really cool organization. I've read about them a little bit in some of the other books, but that's really cool. I didn't know that there were. And maybe I just overlooked it or didn't piece it together, but I didn't know. That's really cool that it's an organization that has different factions. And I think that's so cool that if one falls, another one comes up.
And I think that is why, I mean, now obviously without spoilers, there are some very, very cool characters in Baldur's Gate throughout multiple games and just other adventures that are incredible characters that are part of the Harpers or a big part of the Harpers. But I think it's such a cool organization simply because of that, because you never really know if somebody's tied into it. You don't really know. Again, the factions themselves will have leaders, but there's not one king or lord that rules over all of it. So they are kind of acting all on their own accord with just kind of the common goal in mind, which I think is really fun. And whether it's the Harpers or something else, something like that would be so much fun to have in your world as something that your adventuring party could join in or potentially oppose or kind of work alongside. I just think it's a lot of fun to have organizations like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I have an organization in my world. It's a pirate organization, and that makes sense. What brings those, different crews together, is the shared idea of piracy, and what that brings to them, and how it benefits them in multiple different ways, but also the fact of that they're going against the grain and against the law that also bands them together. I think it's so much cooler, though, that an organization has people that are so willing to be, looked down upon by organized entities and cities and governments, and yet they truly are for the people, that they are considered quiet guardians. And I mean, that really tells you, because in Honor Among Thieves, they portray it as essentially like he's not really making much doing what he's doing. He's doing it for the sake of good and just to be good and bring protection and safety. And that's a very selfless act. And the fact that you have so many people that are willing to bring up factions separately to do so of their own accord. Right? Nobody's forcing them to do so. They're not being drafted. They're not being alienated or shoved from society because of a shared idealism or, doing things that are illegal or illicit. It's just simply, just want to be the hall monitors of Waterdeep, That's so cool.
Well, I think it's cool too, because like I mentioned at the beginning, like all the different classes can kind of slot in there. But I think it was not the last episode that we had Casey on, but before that, when we were talking about Lathander, we touched on paladins a little bit, and sometimes how playing that lawful good can be kind of unfulfilling. Sometimes it just feels like you're just kind of the holy roller who's staring down their nose at everybody. I feel like having a paladin or just a lawful good alignment at all and inserting them into something like the Harpers, where they are lawful good, but it's more for the people, and maybe they are against, this governing body or something like that maybe isn't outright bad, but, kind of having them fill that more folk hero role can make it a lot of fun and a lot more dynamic.
That's true. Yeah. Because, like you said, more dynamic. Because that's sometimes what's really hard. And I see a lot of times with, paladins, warlocks, clerics, the very, deity centric classes, ends up becoming a big portion of their identity, unfortunately. And the idea that it would bring them into, like quote unquote, an extracurricular, or another group of shared beliefs and ideals, but you know, like for druids, right? They should be a part of some kind of druid circle. You know, they have this group of people, you know, but again, everybody's very much like them. So it's really cool that it would be an organization that inherently is for the good of helping people rather than what they are that brings them there. It is what they want to do with their actions and the outcome of those that brings them there instead. And that's really cool. And honestly, it's a really good way. I want to do a one shot now where, like, you know, it's these people that have been brought together and they're brand new to the Harpers, and they're like, you know, somebody in this faction is like, hey, we need a new crew to go and do this job, and you guys are all new recruits. We're going to send you off together to go do this. That's really cool. I like it.
Is, and I think so often I shouldn't say so often. Historically, I've used like a nondescript. You all, you know, especially when I've run it for a younger demographic, you don't want to do the typical you meet in a tavern. So a lot of times I've shifted that to you meet at the Adventurers Guild, but it's always kind of been this like nondescript thing. Yeah. And I think tying that to the Harpers is the perfect, even for a one shot, because then it just gives you that taste of, my word, there's a whole huge world outside of this, you know, that can tie in, and we're, you know, hey, we're a tiny little part of history here, but we know there's all these things happening all up and down the Sword Coast with these Harpers. And I think it's cool too, because you could just have them in your town. They don't have to be a major through line. Maybe the bard performing in the tavern is playing a harp, or, you know, it doesn't have to be a harp, but, you know, if you want to be a little on the nose with it, and they could be a member of the Harpers. And if, you know, your players can infiltrate that a little bit, then that could dangle that carrot in front of them of maybe they want to join something like that. And maybe they don't, but I think it's really cool to have that extra layer in your worlds, whether it's Harpers or any organization like that. It just adds a lot of nuance, because I think it's the nuance that makes the setting so much more fun. It's not always the black and white of good versus evil, which has its place and is a heck of a lot of fun. But when you can have that nuance and the levels to it, much like in real life and reality, you know, it just makes it feel so much more real.
Yeah, I really like that idea, and it's always good to have your group, you know, when they're fighting for something larger than themselves. So the idea that, you know, essentially the Girl Scouts of D&D, which are the Harpers, what I'm going to equate them to, you know, they just come in and they just want good. They want to, you know, volunteer, and
maybe they want you to buy some cookies.
Maybe, you know, look, you're just helping further their cause so they can do more good, and you get to eat good cookies.
Actually would be hilarious though to do in D&D is to have your Harpers selling something like Girl Scout cookies. Maybe that's the young initiative Harpers. Maybe that's the one shot, is you have to go door to door selling cookies, stumble upon, you know, a seance or something like that.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, you know, it's just it's a good way to get them to like fight for a cause that's bigger than themselves, and because you always want something, you know, what's keeping the group together. Eventually, it'll be the group dynamic and camaraderie. They'll forge relationships and friendships within, you know, amongst themselves innately. But you have to have something that binds them together from the beginning. And a lot of, you know, it's easy to do, like you said, you meet in a tavern, you're doing something for coin at the Adventurers Guild, shared trauma, you know, you got infected with a brain parasite, or you've all been arrested and you're trying to escape jail together, you know, those are always good too. But I think that's cool too, to, you know, have them be a part of an organization that just wants to help. And
right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is. And I think there's some beauty in the like depth and history of that too, that doesn't necessarily have to be explained at your table or to your players. But even if it was a one shot, your players could then go online and look up what's the history of the Harpers and be like, oh cool, my character is part of something way bigger, even though we're only focusing on this one smaller tidbit of the story, or maybe that story becomes big. Maybe you end up fighting the Red Wizards of Thay or something, you know? But I just think that's cool to literally have your players be part of something that is bigger and stretches back in history and will continue to carry on into history. I think it's just a lot of fun. It's just, those are, along with many other things, but those are the things in D&D that really get my creative juices flowing and really make me feel inspired and want to world build and play.
Yes, so one of the things I've talked with several players of mine in the past about, especially when they start jamming, is they always go, they're like, Charlie, how do you keep secrets? How do you hold lore back? And I'm like, it's hard. It is really hard.
Yeah,
but something
it is one of the worst parts of being a DM.
Yes. One of the things I recommend is write more lore than you could possibly share in one session. Yeah. And just hold some stuff back. And the simple thing is, like with the Harpers, right? You've already got so much that is there. It's already been well written and thoroughly vetted, and has lots of player feedback. Awesome thing to introduce, and boom, like you were saying earlier, it helps make the world seem much bigger and larger than it is. And when you anytime that I have an organization, a city, a store, I always try to write some kind of background to it. So if anybody is to do, wants to do a history check, or right then or a couple sessions later to recall something, you have something ready to just give. And all of a sudden, you're not only giving more detail about where they're at or who they're talking to or what they're learning about, but it also just adds all this more depth because it gives it establishment and credibility and a legacy. And when you do that, it makes the world that your players are in feel that much more real.
It does. And I think it's funny though, because when I first started DMing, that is why I was drawn, kind of the opposite of that is why I was drawn to homebrew, because diving into something that I knew was well known and had all that rich history intimidated me, because I was not, and frankly, I'm still not super familiar with a lot of that. And the longer you play D&D, the more, movies, games, adventure modules, whatever you play, the more you become kind of familiar with that stuff through osmosis. But I think just having the base down, understanding what the Harper's mantra is enough. As a DM, that is sufficient. And maybe over time with your players, you are reading and learning. Maybe you kind of have the Cliff Notes version of these are some big things that you can pull up on a history check, but you don't have to know that. And I think that is something that I wish I would have had a better understanding of when I first started. Now, don't get me wrong. I am glad that I went down the homebrew route because I enjoy that element of world building. But like we're going to get into here shortly, talking about deities, in my homebrew world, I decided to use the standard Pantheon because I wanted it to be all of my thing, but I wanted it to still feel familiar enough that there was kind of that touchstone for players who are and were more familiar than I was, of being like, okay, this is all new, but we have this level of familiarity with, a deity, or maybe it's a race, something like that, which I think is fun.
Absolutely.
With that said, though, now that we're
we're all back, that was a good
now
segue.
that we're back, we should jump into our main topic of discussion, which is D&D deities and pantheons.
What are we talking about here? D&Ds? What?
D&Ds. I almost made a horrible joke. D&D's nuts. All right, Nicole, please stop me. Good Lord. You can edit that out, Jeffrey.
Or don't.
It's one of the many things that I've unfortunately said while we're recording that will haunt me for years to come. Nicole, please talk so I stop talking.
Okay. I do not have a lot to say about this topic, actually. So my homebrew world, I think officially doesn't have any deities or a pantheon or anything. When it's been asked about, which has not been very often, I've just told my players like, well, it's kind of like here, right? It's kind of like in this reality we live in, that like some people believe that this is true, some people believe that is true, some people believe there's one god, some people believe there's multiple gods. There's just all these different belief systems that kind of coexist. So that's my kind of like non-answer that I've given my players. However, I'm feeling like probably one of my next steps in like building out my homebrew world to make it have a little bit more meat in it is to have some more defined, at least like common religions, right? With common deities that one might hear of if they were in my homebrew world, Etheria. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in what y'all have to say, because I know y'all have more experience, especially you, Charlie, have more experience with this than I do. But, as a player, I think I've always been in games where we just use the regular, whatever the pantheon is that's described in like the player's handbook of the Wizards of the Coast D&D manual. So homebrewing deities, I don't know. I'm intrigued, but I feel like I really don't have a lot to add to the conversation yet. More to come.
I mean, and that largely is where I sit too, because like I just mentioned, I opted to not homebrew my pantheon, which for my world, I think I stand by that choice because there was a time where I was kind of him-hawing back and forth. But I think the reality is you can always add. It's harder once you've established it to take away, but you could always add more deities, or you could add, people who are trying to rise into godhood, as a lich or whatever, to try to supplant somebody if your players kind of latch on to something different. What I have found, and I've talked about it a little bit, so I don't want to just be repeating myself, but what I have found, much like with an organization like the Harpers, it just adds such another layer of depth to your world to have, especially if you have a player who is a paladin, cleric, warlock, who, has a patron or deity or something that they are tied to. I have found it's really fun to be able to kind of tug on those strings. Sometimes you're going to have moments that maybe are dictated by dice rolls. Maybe it's dictated by, oops, I messed that up as a DM. It's really easy sometimes to chalk that up to like divine intervention. Maybe that player's god did intervene and maybe they weren't aware of it at the time, but you can always kind of look back and be like, no, this deity that you've been loyal to has been watching. Mm-hmm. I think that's something, again, no spoilers. I think that, again, that's something that Baldur's Gate 3 does incredibly well, is integrate deities into stories and how they kind of pick and poke at things, sometimes stick their noses where it feels like they have no business. And I just think it's fun to be able to build and play off of that dynamic of having the, I find for me as a player and as a DM, having something that is more powerful than you, that isn't necessarily the enemy, mm-hmm. I think is kind of fun. I completely forgot to talk about this when we were talking about what we've done. I was a player in the Journey to Ragnarok campaign this last Sunday with the Theater Geeks group that I'm a part of, that we stream on Twitch. And we got to meet in a human form in disguise, but we got to meet Odin. So we literally were sitting around a campfire having conversations with, the All-Father in that world. And it was so cool because it's like, as, me, Jared,
super cool,
caught on pretty quick of, I think this is what's happening, but my character wouldn't have really known. And I think that's such an interesting dynamic to have the gods be interested in tasks that maybe seem like they're so far beneath them that they wouldn't. Sometimes maybe they just get bored. Sometimes maybe they simply want to meddle for the sake of meddling, you know?
Yeah.
And then obviously you can take that and scale that. You can make them hyper involved. You know, your stories obviously could involve them to a significant point, you know? Charlie, how you have homebrewed your Pantheon, is that correct?
Yes and no.
Yes.
So one of the beauties of Adventures After an Arcane Apocalypse is that it sets Earth on the material plane. So it does make all of the 50 years of D&D Pantheons canon, as well as third-party material, but also the rich history of, well, us,
Earth.
humans.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of really cool religions and deities all throughout history, and crazy legends and lore. There's really awesome stuff to pull from. And so there's a lot to work with there. And for my purposes, mainly certain things and NPCs and stuff, you know, it's a very living world. There are some gods that I've fleshed out to have some influence, that had, you know, some stakes or interest, like you said, whether it's, you know, meddling for fun, boredom, vying for power, right? That's one of the things in my world. I have reinterpreted it with the idea that there was this arcane apocalypse, and it pushed from the 21st century, where you have, you know, the idea of these very, you know, Christian, Islamic, Jewish, Buddhist, all these different religions that are common for the 21st century. A lot of the idea is that the old gods of history past that aren't widely worshipped or followed now than they were thousands of years ago, it's not that they don't exist, but rather they felt shunned, is how I explained to a lot of players during session 0, that there are these gods that felt shunned from mankind and society, that turned their backs on them, you know, and they felt like they, you know, had done all of this, and they're like, well, fine, you know. And if Earth is on the material plane, that then means that there's many other planets, many other planes of existence that they can travel to, go to. You know, maybe they're like, you know what, I do want to retire for millennia and not have to deal with prayers and the bureaucracy and politics of, you know, our pantheon. And at the same time, with people worshiping, it also allowed these gods to come down and directly influence, you know, a couple billion mortals to try to vie for power and worship and offerings and sacrifices and dedication, so that they could overthrow the throne in the pantheon. And so, for instance, that happened a lot with the Greek and Roman pantheons. And so not Thor, Zeus was dethroned for a period of time, and things were shaken up. But I mean, that's a way to homebrew a pantheon, you know, for your world, without creating all these new gods. You just reinterpret, you know, just kind of introduce a new perspective or flavor, if you know, for your setting, what fits for you and what works, you know. And
I love that. Like, I mean, I feel like I have the same compliment of everything that is in your world, Charlie, which is like, it's so creative and unique, but it's also so like accessible. Because like, okay, so yeah, all this stuff happened to, you know, let's say the Greek gods. Okay, most adults have at least some working knowledge of like the main Greek gods and what they did. So it's like you're taking this thing that people already have background information about, but then you're making it into a thing that has a life of its own. And it's just like, it's so good.
Well, thank you. Yes, that and that was a big, you know, inspiration to go back a little bit to Adventures After an Arcane Apocalypse. Using Earth, it makes it, like you said, more accessible, more tangible, especially for new players, it's so much easier to imagine an interpretation, a vision, an echo of Earth, versus, a whole other planet. But at the same time, that's also what's good with Pantheon, in D&D. Just because something is written a certain way does not mean that you have to run it that way. A great campaign could be wholly focused around the sense of, one of my favorite D&D deities, Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon. What if he decided, he's like, I've been going this way for the longest time, of justice and righteousness and giving that authority to those that follow me, these paladins, and give them power to make the little bits of influence in their own corner without me getting involved. What if he's like, fuck it, I'm getting directly involved, and just comes onto the material plane and just starts wrecking societies that he feels are not righteous enough? Why not? Go for it, Yeah, that's a great story and a great way to narratively change and influence so many things and give cause and reason for players to do something, or why something is the way that it is in your world, without having to reinvent the entire wheel. Just twist it. One example I have of that is Hestia, also known as the goddess of hearth, home, and sacrificial fire. In the real history of the Greek and Roman pantheons. She is somebody that I've used this deity. She has a lot of influence and a lot of involvement in some of the narratives and storylines that are in my world. I thought she was just a really cool concept and idea, but that was somebody that already had a lot that I could pull from. And then from there, just started to, interpret different things. And when I have deities that I'm going to focus a lot more on, what I'll do is I'll do a write-up on them. And so, I want to come up with different aspects so that if I had a player that, decided, especially if we're playing at level 1, and say, a paladin wants to make their oath at level 3, or for druids, I have homebrewed circles, druid circles that they could join, but they do that at level 3. It's cool to have those things, and you want to have those different aspects that players can pull from. So with her, my little mock-up for her is, she has her different nicknames. So Hestia, goddess of hearth, goddess of the home, goddess of sacrificial fire, and then, different things that she's known as well, firstborn of Kronos and Rhea, the sanctuary of light, altar of the cosmos. But these are all things that are already out there. I'm just collecting them and just concising them to put for reference so that, if your players act your homebrew deity, you can give them little tangent details, or somebody, if they're like, oh, you meet someone who is also, a follower of Hestia, and what would that NPC say? They probably wouldn't, especially if they're from a different area, they wouldn't refer to Hestia as the same thing as them. They'd be like, oh yes, goddess of the hearth, and they're like, goddess of the sacrificial fire, yes, yes, guardian of the night, yes. This would be things that they would find some common ground that would be kind of similar to. And then I try to also write descriptions as well, how, especially with your deities, if your players ever want to go to a house of worship, you want to be able to have descriptions of what they look like, or what people are saying about them, or how they would refer to them. But also then, what are the motivations of your god? I try to also do descriptions, both physically and the conceptual idea of them, because it's, they're a god, right? Like, they're not going to necessarily, especially if they appear in someone's dream, you don't have to give these physical characteristics. So, like, for instance, I wrote, the way I interpret Hestia is that I wrote, her skin is like the sea of the Milky Way, but it glows with a soft radiance of firelight, flickering like a candle in the corner. Her hair falls past her shoulders and fades to an invisible end like gentle smoke. Freckles frame her cheeks and eyes like distant stars reaching out through the fading moonlight against the rising sun. When she speaks, tiny sparks of cinders dance gracefully in the air around you from her breath. Those things.
Okay.
It's a god, right? Like, you can get really fun and creative with it. You don't have to, they don't have to be this physical concept. They can be super ethereal, super abstract, however you want to envision them. You can make them, and that can be how they appear to people.
Yeah.
So
follow us for more poetry by the Ink GM.
Right. One other way that I've heavily used gods in my world is simply naming locations. My world of the Abyssal Tide, the Oceanic Vale, there's the Mistra Sea, named for Mistra. There's Umberlee is the queen of the sea. So I have like a big city of Umber. And so I like to use it in that way too, because then it is a history of when this place was established, much like you see on Earth. When that place was established, it was named after something that was important to that people, and I feel like that is a very good way to kind of both have history and sneak in, some religion and deities into your world building, of if you can just kind of inundate your cities or locations with some of those things, it makes it really easy to slowly broach the subject of, they're here, they do exist. When I first started, none of my players were tied to any deity or patron. Now I have a cleric, so it's kind of like that envelope has now been opened. So now I feel like it's easier to have gods and deities kind of directly affecting them in some manner, whereas before it might have been happening, but it was kind of subtle nudges here and there, so I think that's a lot of fun too, because it again, just, which is the whole goal of D&D and world building, it just kind of gives that other layer of depth and history, that makes it feel like time has existed before we have met these characters, and before this adventure that we're playing together started, and like it's going to continue.
It's like we're crafting stories or something.
Weird.
Wild.
So strange.
Another thing I also recommend if you're homebrewing deities is write kind of like a little mock-up for them, as if like you were writing a dating profile for them. Write likes and dislikes, things. And those can be really fun, really great ways to create little subtleties and nods. And so, like, for instance, everybody knows right? Bahamut is known as a platinum dragon, but another trait of him is also the number 7, and he appears sometimes as 7 birds, and he will also polymorph himself into an old man. And so those are things that, you can put little likes and dislikes, preferences, and things that are associated with your deities, especially your homebrew ones, and then they can be subtle nods or references. And you don't have to pick the thing that is like the iconic aspect of your god or goddess. Just create it, and then let your players latch on and gravitate towards whatever it is, and then play into that. And then it makes them feel they have some influence in the world, but it also organically gives them something to latch onto and feels almost like it was written for them. When again, it's that collaborative aspect to it. Right. So just go with it.
One thing that ties exactly what you were saying with, the Behemoth and like 7 is I don't even know if my players know this. So if you're listening, congratulations. I like to use all 5 senses, and I've actually had them be like graced by the presence of a god with smells. Of be like, you might not be by the ocean, but you smell seawater, or, you smell whatever it is. There's a lot of fun there. Utilize all 5 senses.
Yes,
I like that.
Absolutely. It's such a great way, because again, a god or a goddess, they're supposed to be this big, powerful thing. They can be as ethereal and abstract as you want, and they can manifest themselves in a wild myriad of ways any way you want them to. But those little things, those are things that are going to be really reminiscent. And I like those things too, like you said, because I like them specifically for Again, your classes that do follow a certain god, and if they're praying to a god or a deity, sometimes they want to give a prayer, and I'll be like, okay, roll a religion check, right? And if they roll low, you feel bad. You don't want them to feel like, oh, they don't hear you, or they don't respond back.
They
right?
don't care.
They don't give a shit about you. Some of them don't. But that would be a perfect thing where it's like, okay, you give this prayer, and you give this prayer out into the open, into the ether, of night, and you don't know what happens.
Yeah.
And a few moments pass by, and then all of a sudden, you're nowhere near the ocean, but you swear you smell the salty breeze as if waves are at your feet right now. And then it's gone. And that's like a perfect little nod to gives them feeling, like a connection to the deity without this big grand thing. And yet it feels very personal. It feels very impactful in this momentous thing, but it doesn't have to be this, well, your god manifests themselves and they give you 500 gold and they sit down with you and they say, let me tell you the secret of life.
Give you 500 gold and a crisp high five and peace out.
Right.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of very creative and fun ways that you can use deities. Again, like I said about the Harpers, I think if you want to use pre-established gods in the D&D world, don't worry about not knowing all of their history. If you don't know it, likely your player doesn't. And if they do and want to correct you, then just be like, either, hey, sorry, we'll correct that, or it's just like, well, that may have been true at one point in history, but it's not anymore. The god's view has changed, or whatever. They're a lot of fun. I think that when world building, they recommend starting with a pantheon and building down. And I think I touched on this in another episode, and it makes sense. It didn't to me when I started world building, but now I see how much it makes sense, because if you have a pantheon, even if it's 3 gods, if you look at like Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades or something, well, if you have the gods, then probably you have people who are going to worship those gods. And if people are worshiping those gods, probably they've built a temple or an altar or some place of worship.
Yeah.
So then you have that. Well, where's that located? Well, it's probably in a town, or maybe it's not a town. Maybe it's a monastery up on a high mountaintop. And you kind of have this trickle down effect throughout the world then, that even if you get to the point where those deities really are not affecting your session to session story, the world is just kind of deep and it flows out from there. And then you always have those strings to pull on with religion checks and history checks and what have you.
That's smart. That's good advice to make it like more cohesive, because it came from kind of like that same framework.
Which, to be very clear, is not a new idea. This has been said many, many times, so I don't want to present that as if I had this revelation, but...
I'm going to credit Jared.
That's right.
Another thing I would also suggest too, if you want to do something more specific or tailored, because you also don't have to do the big grand deities, right? You can also have lesser gods. And maybe those lesser gods could end up, being influential NPCs of high level or something. Who knows? Whatever you want to do with it. But another thing I recommend, it also gives a lot of flavor to small towns or anything you're going to in your homebrew world. Think about what that town, what would they worship? What would be important to them? Yeah. Because a small town or village of 500 people, probably may not give two shits collectively about Hades, but very much would about, the protector of the river that brings them life and sustenance and allows them to grow their crops. And, over the years, okay, they worship that river. What would they call that river? Well, how would they describe it in their regional area? And then you just kind of go from there. And then next thing you know, you've built this little bit of lore and legend and name about this lesser deity that's heavily influential over here. And who knows where that goes from. And then that just gives you a little bit more depth, makes that a little bit more unique. And maybe they have a festival that they, you know, do around this, or a holiday around that lesser deity.
Love a festival.
One shot or set. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another trick I will say, one of my favorite things, if you're homebrewing a deity, or if you want to introduce a deity that's already written and everything else, you can look up anagram generators and just throw in you know, a nickname, make up a nickname for a goddess or god, or one that's already made up, and put that in and let the anagram generator run its thing and see what comes up. And cool things. One of which I have a bad deity that I homebrewed for mine that he's doing quite a few nefarious things. But yeah, really cool, and got an anagram in there. And I'm not going to say it because I have players that are, you know, who knows.
You have players that are about to be players that are part of this podcast. So
yeah, I know.
Right?
who have to edit this
careful.
podcast.
Yes, but you know, that's something really cool, and that's a way for you to like give nods, or again, you know, reinterpret, you know, the Lord of Zeus, who I don't know what kind of anagram that might come up, but it could come up with something crazy. But that could be a reference or a nod to something, and somebody thinks that they're worshiping one deity, and it turns out to be someone else, but it's just colloquially how it's been known here. Who knows? There's all kinds of things you can do to just change it up, add some tweaks, make it your own, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That is something that I have definitely started doing when I make a city, going back a little bit, but when I make a city, I always list like, these are the deities that would largely be worshipped here, you know, and typically I find like they're going to be the bigger named ones. But I remember, I don't even know if it ever came up in the adventure. I'd written, it was one of the first times I DM'd, had written like a 2 or 3 short adventure set in the wild, like the mythical Wild West. That was kind of like in a snowy Montana thing where they ended up fighting a Wendigo. But the river that ran through, that kind of cut the place in half, was called the Talona River, which she's the goddess of, I think it's disease and poison, if I'm not mistaken. And I even described the river as being kind of foul, and the whole land kind of like leached out from that and was great. And I don't know that it ever came up because, again, it was a short story. But even stuff like that is just fun. You know, it gives you names, it gives you reasons, kind of. If you look at a god and you kind of feel it fits, it can even give you like weather effects that might be pertinent in that area. There's just a lot. The sky's the limit, which is true of anything in D&D, but I feel like deities and pantheons especially, you can just have so much fun and be so creative with.
I love it. This is such a fun discussion. I'm like having all these ideas, but also I'm very tired, so the ideas are a little muddled.
Yes, respect. The good news is we're recording this and we can re-listen to it.
That's right.
Yes,
I'm going to for sure.
But I do think that's a wonderful anecdote to end on. I love that. It is so cool, and what a great way to remember that town, right? And personify it in ways that give it a much more meaning and make it bigger than just, you know, if you were to say, oh, it's a sleepy little snowy town with a river that runs through. Okay, cool. You know, it's like, well, how foul is it? It's so foul that people are like, only a goddess could do this. That's how bad and wretched this thing is. I mean, that says a lot more than, it's a dirty river. It smells.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool, man.
Appreciate it. Likewise. Cool. Well,
I wish we could do this forever.
I know. I think we probably could if, you know, sleep weren't a thing. But
I know. I feel like we could just probably go on a lot of these topics because it's like infinite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just have to have
there lies the beauty of D&D.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I think that's where we'll call it for tonight.
Yeah, let's roll D100
Yeah.
and determine a topic for next time. I'm happy to do that digitally real quick if unless you guys have a physical die handy. All right, let's go for it. D100. We're rolling, baby. 19. I don't think we've rolled that yet.
I don't think so. Okay. Wait, why are these all mixed up?
Let me do my drum roll that nobody will hear again.
Ooh, 19. Dungeon design.
Ooh, heck yeah. That's exciting. Sweet.
Ooh,
That'll give us plenty to think on.
Yes.
Dungeon design.
Yes.
That'll be fun.
Cool.
All right.
Oh.
Well, Charlie
Okay,
just
bye.
Well,
All right.
we assume Charlie will pop back in. But thank you all for listening. Oh, there it is. Welcome back, Charlie.
Bye.
I have no idea what just happened there.
That was pretty hilarious, actually. You just go, all right. And you were just gone.
He just totally dropped.
And we're out. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for spending another evening or morning or afternoon, however you spend it with the Story Crafters. We are grateful and love to have you by the fireside. Join us again soon. And once again, we have Nicole, Game Master Mom, Jared, World's Okayest Crafter, and Charlie the Ink GM, collectively all missing the wonderful Jeff.
Yes.
And we'll see you all next time. Take care. Be safe. Roll well, my friends.